Welcome back, YouTube. Another install product review. We got this shiny little pole here. This is the TB Performance front strut bar. We're going to install this into the Focus that you guys already all know about. And we're going to see how easy it is to install and take a look at how it looks once it's all done. A general note for the beginning of this video, I want to tell you first, before you get into any of this, these two lock washers on the end of this bar, you want to have the nut when it's turning to tighten it towards the pole. You want the lock washer to be to flow with it, because if you don't and you tighten it, the part that's sticking out, the part of the lock washer is like this and like this. If you're spinning this way, it's going to catch this. So you want the part sticking out to go with the spin of the lock washer and the nut. If that didn't make sense, leave a comment. But more or less, you want it to not be hitting that corner of that washer when you're tightening it. First thing we want to do is remove those little grills so we can get down in there. Then we're going to remove the weather stripping that's on the front that touches the hood. Take these 3 clips off in the middle, actually 4 clips. Use a flathead, pop it up, give it a wiggle, and take them out. Remove the 2 Torx bits. You're going to have one here and one on the opposite side of the car in the same spot. Now pull up on this panel and you're going to pop this off of the windshield all the way across. Now, underneath this plastic is another cowl piece. We're going to remove this with a 10mm socket. There should be just one screw on each side. Now, we need to remove these 10mm bolts from where the wiper arm attaches. So we're going to take that out, and that's going to attach to this later on. Take a 13mm socket, remove the 3 strut bolts. These 2 nuts in the center are also holding this crossbar, so we need to remove these 2 with a deep 10mm socket. Now you can go ahead, lift this up, and try not to scratch your intake pipe if you got a nice one. Just pull this out and put it on the floor. While you're in here, use some quick detailer and just clean it up, because I'm sure it's going to be nasty. Once it's all cleaned up, go ahead, line up this bracket so that the little arm goes underneath the wiper, and then hand start your shock bolts again. So they sent this little nut to go with this screw for the wiper arm bracket, right? But I like the nut we took off the center of the stock cross brace. So I'm going to use this flange nut from the center instead of that tiny one. And then we're going to slide this through the front, put this one on the back. And so it'll be like this. Before you tighten these 13mm strut bolts, make sure you start your wiper bracket bolt, because it still has a little bit of wiggle room, and that wiggle room can make or break you even being able to put this in. One thing I just found out, what you need to make sure that happens is you need to mount one side, which I suggest doing the driver's side because there's more crap in your way. Mount that side all the way down, and then you're going to slide the bar on over here. Then with this bracket loose, you're going to slide this one on, and then put this side together. remove the top nut and the lock washer from both sides. Now we need to adjust this pipe because as of right now it's about a 1/2 inch shorter, so it won't reach the other end. So what you want to do is hook the one side and hold this side so it doesn't spin, and then spin this so that the arms are coming out of it equally, and you're going to spin this until it's even and it can slide over. Now what we need to do is lower the bottom nut as far as we can lower it without hitting either your intake, your battery, your brake master cylinder, or any of this. So we're going to lower those nuts as far as we can. As we can see here, with the nuts all the way down, we're touching the battery box and the brake cylinder, so that's bad. So what I did was took a Sharpie, I marked one edge of the bolt on both sides. What we're going to do is do one rotation on each side until the bar is as low as possible but not rubbing anything. For my car, it was 3 turns up, and I'm clearing everything now. So now I'm going to loosely put on the lock washer and the nut. Just going to put these on loose on both sides. You're going to use a 15/16 socket for the top. I just tightened it down a little bit, just enough to get it to where the thing sort of holds together. So then, now we're going to get to where we're going to adjust this, the distance this way. So what I'm doing is I'm making it as tight as possible without being a crazy amount of pressure. So for me, turning it, right, I already tightened it a bunch. So if you can't turn it anymore with one hand, you should be fine. So now it's pulling the tops together and as low as possible on the stud, because you don't want the pressure towards the top, because eventually it'll break the stud. So you want it as low as you can get it and then tight together. So now these are going to be opposite spinning. You're going to spin this and tighten it into the pole. Probably have another person hold the bar so that nothing spins. So then we're going to tighten this, the top one and the pole one, so that everything is tight and nothing can come loose or come out of adjustment. So I want the weather stripping to sit on the car correctly again. Just the top piece by itself is too thin. It's not going to hold on, plus the center of it's going to be all floppy and shit. So we don't want that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this piece that was clipped in, and then the 2 screws on the ends went through here. So I'm going to cut it far enough back where it'll give it the rigidity, but not too far where it's going to hit the strut bar. So I'm going to take off a little at a time so I have the most of this as possible, and we'll see what this looks like. So here's what I got left. Pretty much all I cut off was from the transition down here where it goes flat. I just cut that whole transition where it sticks, you know, flat this way. I took that whole transition out, and it seems to fit. First time's a charm right there. So we slide that over, slide that over. Now if you look over here, it's not touching anything, and it's still going to be totally functional. When I put this all together, this is going to hold the weather stripping real nice. So now it's just a matter of clicking this back into the windshield, like so. Then lining up this screw hole here and putting these clips back in. Once you put it all back together, it's going to look totally stock. And then you can see, with this piece in, you won't even be able to see the bar except for in the corners. So I like this look better. It's going to hold the weather stripping better, and I think it just looks better. You can still get to the shock adjustments by popping these off, and if you have adjustable shocks, then you can adjust them. So I hope this video helped you guys figure out how to do all this crap. Thanks to TB Performance for doing that group buy. Ended up good for me. Next few months, I think, we'll do a track day. I'll let you know an update. It'll probably be in my next track day video. Update on how it feels with this bar. So from my point of view, it looks like quality work. Everything seems to be welded nicely. All the hardware seems to be good, except for that one nut that they wanted us to use for the windshield wipers. I wish they would upgrade that to a flange head bolt. It's only a couple cents more. You know, hopefully he does that in the future for everybody else who buys new ones. Other than that, I got no complaints. It looks super nice. The powder coatings turned out nice. So we'll see what happens. Till next time, wrench on.